What's up, guys? Teams build their rosters through the NFL draft, not in trades or free agency. It's all about hitting the jackpot with your draft picks. That's what separates model organizations like the Pittsburgh Steelers and New England Patriots from longtime laughingstocks like the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets, unfortunately. Just look at how teams have drafted over the past decade. It's simple. Draft well and you win. Waste your picks and you lose. The formula is easy. But even those teams with the best scouting staffs have made a mistake or two in the war room over the past decade. I'm Biondo, and today we present every NFL team's worst draft pick of the past 10 years. Don't forget to subscribe to TPS and put on your notifications because we post videos every single day. Every day is a new video, so you should definitely go subscribe. It's a really good idea. Go do it. Arizona Cardinals, Jonathan Cooper. The Cardinals were looking to beef up their awful offensive line, so they took North Carolina guard Jonathan Cooper with the 7th pick in 2013. Unfortunately, Cooper suffered a broken left fibula in his rookie season and was never able to really get healthy again. He missed his entire rookie year and wasn't very productive in the 2014 and 15 seasons. The consolation prize was that Arizona traded Cooper and a second-round pick to the New England Patriots for star pass rusher Chandler Jones. But still, they wasted a premium draft pick on a guard that never panned out. Atlanta Falcons, Sean Weatherspoon. The Falcons have actually been one of the best drafting teams over the past decade, getting studs like Julio Jones, Vic Beasley, and Calvin Ridley. But it's safe to say they're kicking themselves for taking linebacker Sean Weatherspoon with the 19th pick in 2010. Weatherspoon wasn't terrible by any means, but he never developed into a big-time impact player like the Falcons envisioned. He spent 2 stints with Atlanta, but Weatherspoon didn't come along accordingly. They passed on Pro Bowl talents like Demaryius Thomas, Rob Gronkowski, and Des Bryant. Imagine if the Falcons had one of those guys lining up beside Julio Jones. They definitely would have had a Super Bowl or two. Baltimore Ravens, Brashad Perryman. Ozzie Newsome has drafted better than most other teams as GM of the Baltimore Ravens. But nobody's perfect, as evidenced by his 2015 first-round selection of Brashad Perryman. The UCF wideout missed his entire rookie season due to an injury and was never a good fit in Baltimore's offense. Perryman played just 2 years with the Ravens, catching a total of 43 passes for 576 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Ravens let Perryman go after the 2017 season. Buffalo Bills, Aaron Maben. You probably expected to see Sammy Watkins on here, but at least he had a couple of productive seasons in Buffalo. The Bills didn't get much of anything out of Aaron Maben, whom they selected 11th overall in 2009. Maben lasted just 2 years in Buffalo and didn't even register a single sack. Deciding to cut their losses, the Bills waived Maben before the 2011 season. He was out of the NFL by 2013 and headed to the CFL. Carolina Panthers, Jeff Ota. Alright, now we were tempted to put Kelvin Benjamin on this list, but at least he had a couple of decent years in Carolina. The same cannot be said about offensive tackle Jeff Ota, whom the Panthers selected with the 19th pick in 2008. He was a star at Pittsburgh, but he wasn't able to transfer those skills over to the NFL level. Unfortunately, his knee betrayed him, and it completely derailed his 3 seasons in the NFL. This included him missing the entire 2010 season. He was out of the league after the 2011 season due to recurring injuries. You simply have to feel sorry for the guy. Chicago Bears, Kevin White. The Chicago Bears traded Pro Bowl wideout Brandon Marshall to the New York Jets in the offseason. They tried to replace his production by drafting big West Virginia wide receiver Kevin White with the number 7 pick in 2015. However, White missed his entire rookie year after suffering a fracture in his shin. White then broke his leg early in the 2016 season and was done for the year. And sadly, White suffered a gruesome shoulder injury in week 1 of the 2017 season and was ruled out for the year once again. The Bears never got much production out of White, but that's because he was never on the field much. To make matters worse, they passed on Pro Bowl talents like Vic Beasley, Marcus Peters, and Melvin Gordon to get him. Yikes. Cincinnati Bengals, Kevin ZEITLER. Believe it or not, this dysfunctional franchise has actually hit most of their first-round picks over the years. But that doesn't include taking this guy with the 27th selection in 2012. He did play for the Bengals from 2012 to 2016, but he never developed into that great of an offensive lineman. He's not exactly a draft bust, but more so just the most regretful first-round pick the Bengals have made in the past decade. Unlike most of the Bengals' first-round picks, he didn't live up to the expectations, making him an easy choice on this list. Cleveland Browns, Trent Richardson. The Browns have been the NFL's worst drafting team over the past 20 years. There is no denying it. But given his position and the fact that he was taken with the 3rd overall pick in 2012, we had to put Alabama running back Trent Richardson on here. Dishonorable mentions to Justin Gilbert and Brandon Weeden. Richardson rushed for 950 yards in his rookie year, but the Browns would then trade him to the Indianapolis Colts for a first-round pick during the 2013 season. T-Rich was a huge flop in Indy and last played an NFL game in 2014. The Browns would use that first-round pick from the Colts on Johnny Manziel, who obviously became a bust himself. At least the Browns have Baker Mayfield now, and Kareem Hunt. They're doing something right. Dallas Cowboys, Morris Claiborne. The Cowboys traded up so they could get LSU cornerback Morris Claiborne with the 6th pick in 2012. 2012? Well, it certainly didn't pan out well. Claiborne wasn't able to fit on the Dallas defense that was quite bad during his 5 seasons there. And again, this was a guy who was a 6th overall draft choice. Claiborne was just an average Joe of a cornerback in Dallas, and he left them to sign with the New York Jets in the 2017 offseason. Not Jerry Jones' best move. Denver Broncos, Paxton Lynch. Peyton Manning retired. Brock Osweiler signed with the Houston Texans. That left GM John Elway desperate to find a starting quarterback for the defending Super Bowl 50 champion Broncos. His move? Trade up and nab Memphis signal caller Paxton Lynch with the 26th pick. While the Lynch era was a disaster in the Mile High City, he couldn't win the starting gig over Trevor Siemian, but wasn't very good either. Lynch started just 4 games over a 2-year span in Denver, compiling 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. The Broncos released Lynch before the 2018 season, mercilessly ending his very disappointing tenure with the organization. Detroit Lions, Eric Ebron. The Detroit Lions already had a high-powered offense, but the front office only wanted to add to it, so they took this tight end with the 1st-round pick, despite a pressing need for secondary and running back help. He was a huge disappointment in the Motor City. In his 4 years there, he compiled 186 receptions for 2,070 yards and 11 touchdowns. On the bright side, he joined the Colts in 2018 and found success with Andrew Luck, while for the Lions fans, he was one of their biggest busts in recent memory. Green Bay Packers, Derek Sherrod. The Packers are traditionally a great drafting team, which is why the front office usually avoids big trades and free agent signings. But taking offensive tackle Derek Sherrod with their 1st-round pick in 2011 turned out to be a rare drafting mistake for Ted Thompson. Sherrod suffered a broken leg late in the 2011 season, which forced him to miss all of 2012. He returned in 2013, but was never able to find his form as a reliable starter on the O-line. The Packers let Sherrod go in the midst of the 2014 season, and he was out of football shortly after. Houston Texans, Will Fuller. Yeesh. J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson, you name it. The Houston Texans have done a terrific job drafting in the 1st round. However, 2016 draft pick Will Fuller, the 21st selection that year, hasn't quite panned out so far. The Texans hoped that Fuller would be able to complement Pro Bowl wideout DeAndre Hopkins, but he hasn't materialized. Fuller had an okay rookie and sophomore year. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL in the midst of the 2018 season, just as the Texans were regaining their playoff form. The clock is ticking on Fuller to show he's capable of staying healthy and being a quality number 2 wideout in the NFL. Indianapolis Colts, Phillip Dorsett. Between 2000 and 2017, the Indianapolis Colts only had 1 top 10 pick. That selection was Andrew Luck, who went 1st overall in 2012. As such, it's hard for this team to really have that many disappointing draft picks. The 2015 1st-rounder Phillip Dorsett was not the right choice for the Colts. They already had T.Y. Hilton, Andre Johnson, and Dante Moncrief as wideouts. So why on earth would they use a 1st-rounder on another wide receiver? We don't know, but Dorsett was very unproductive in his first 2 years with the Colts. He totaled 51 receptions with 753 yards and 3 touchdowns. In 2017, the Colts traded Dorsett to the New England Patriots, and they received quarterback Jacoby Brissett in return. Jacksonville Jaguars. Luke Joeckel. The Jaguars have made more draft mistakes over the past decade than most other teams. But considering this guy was a number 2 pick back in 2013, we had no choice but to put him on here. He was a highly touted offensive tackle out of Texas A&M, having been named a unanimous All-American in 2012. But he missed most of his rookie year after suffering a bad ankle injury. He wasn't able to develop accordingly, and Pro Football Focus often ranked him as one of the league's worst offensive linemen. He played for the Seattle Seahawks in 2017, but they weren't able to revive his career. As such, he'll go down as one of the biggest offensive lineman busts ever. Kansas City Chiefs, Eric Fisher. To be fair to the Chiefs, the 2013 NFL Draft didn't have any can't-miss prospects. But yeah, 1st overall pick Eric Fisher still hasn't developed into a Pro Bowl star. If anything, he's been a liability on their offensive line for several years now. The Chiefs had high hopes for the 6'7" offensive tackle, but Fisher hasn't grown into a reliable starter yet. Did we mention he was the 1st overall pick? It wasn't really a pretty draft class. Los Angeles Chargers, DJ Fluker. The Chargers knew that Phillip Rivers needed better pass protection. Thus, it was an easy choice to take Alabama guard DJ Fluker with the 11th overall pick in 2013. But he simply didn't pan out for the Chargers in his 4 seasons there. Though the franchise has made the most of the 1st-round picks over the past decade, he was one of their most disappointing draft picks ever. He was eventually cut by the Chargers in 2017. Los Angeles Rams, Sam Bradford. You have to feel sorry for Sam Bradford, who probably would have developed better if it weren't for consistent knee injuries during his tenure with the Rams. Bradford was selected 1st overall by St. Louis in 2010. He managed to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. But from then on out, Bradford's knee betrayed him, and he simply wasn't able to shine in St. Louis. Bradford won just 18 games over a 5-year span with the Rams, and he was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles in 2015. Miami Dolphins, Dion Jordan. The Dolphins traded up with the Oakland Raiders to select Dion Jordan 3rd overall in 2013. But the 6'6" Oregon defensive end never came close to reaching his potential as a franchise-changing pass rusher. Jordan wasn't able to make much of an impact on the defensive line, led by Pro Bowler Cameron Wake. He was also suspended for all of 2015 after violating the league's drug policy. Jordan finished with just 3 sacks in 2 seasons with the Dolphins. He would join the Seattle Seahawks in 2017, but still hasn't lived up to the hype as a former 3rd overall pick. Minnesota Vikings, Christian Ponder. There were plenty of doubts regarding Christian Ponder's ability to succeed at the NFL level, but the Vikings didn't care. They went for it and took the Florida State QB with the 12th pick in 2011. Well, the math is short and sweet when it comes to explaining how he was a bust. Ponder started just 36 games over a 4-year span. He won just 14 games and tossed 36 touchdowns against 38 interceptions, and he last played an NFL game in 2014. New England Patriots, Dominique EASLEY. You rarely find a first-round draft mistake by Bill Belichick. He always finds gold in the draft, be it in the 1st round, 3rd round, 6th, or even 7th round. The man is just always thinking one step ahead of everybody else. That being said, Belichick surely regrets taking Florida defensive tackle Dominique EASLEY with the 29th pick in 2014. EASLEY was ineffective and had both his rookie and sophomore years derailed by injuries. After just 2 seasons, the Patriots decided to release EASLEY, and he would go on to sign with the Los Angeles Rams. New Orleans Saints, Cedric Ellis. Credit to the Saints, who have hit the jackpot on most of their first-round picks in recent years. This includes Cameron Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, and Mark Ingram Jr., among others. However, the Saints surely wish for a do-over after taking defensive tackle Cedric Ellis with the 7th pick in 2008. He never fit into one of the league's worst defensive teams. He totaled just 12.5 career sacks in 5 games. On the bright side, he was part of the Saints Super Bowl 44 championship team, so he's got a ring. Good for him. He retired from football after the 2012 season. It kind of sucks because the Saints actually passed on Chris Johnson with that one. New York Giants, Ereck Flowers. The G-men had plenty of weakness heading into the 2015 draft, but they prioritized better pass protection for Eli Manning. So the Giants took 6'6" offensive tackle Ereck Flowers with the number 9 pick. While that failed miserably, Flowers wasn't able to materialize into a starting caliber lineman. Other teammates even said that Flowers quit on the Giants. The G-men finally gave up on Flowers and released him in the midst of the 2018 season. We regret to inform Giants fans that Todd Gurley was taken in the next pick in the 2015 draft. Wow, that sucks. New York Jets, Vernon Gholston. Gang Green took Gholston with the number 6 pick in the 2008 draft, and it was hard to question them. The Ohio State defensive end looked like a sure thing. There was simply no way he could flop at the NFL level. The Jets couldn't get much out of Gholston in his rookie year, so they placed him on the special teams unit. Even defensive guru head coach Rex Ryan couldn't find a way to maximize Gholston's production. The guy spent most of his time as a backup in New York, and they cut him loose after 3 seasons. Oakland Raiders, Rolando McClain. Death, taxes, and the Oakland Raiders drafting so many busts. Now, we felt inclined to put Darren McFadden or Darius Hayward-Bay on this list, but both guys had a couple of productive years in Oakland, so we opted to put Rolando McClain here instead. The Alabama linebacker was taken with the 8th overall pick in 2010, but as usual, the Raiders wound up drafting a non-impact player that spent very little time in the organization. McClain was arrested multiple times, and that would be the final straw for Oakland. They released him in the 2013 offseason. By taking McClain, they missed out on Pro Bowlers like Earl Thomas and Jason Pierre-Paul. Poor Raiders. Again. Philadelphia Eagles, Danny Watkins. Actually, the Philadelphia Eagles have drafted better than just about anybody else since 2008. Look at their Super Bowl 52 championship team. Guys like Carson Wentz, Fletcher Cox, and Brandon Graham. They were all first-round picks. But the Eagles struck out on Baylor guard Danny Watkins, who was taken with the 23rd selection in 2011. He was one of the most highly regarded offensive linemen in the draft, so this looked like a home run at first. But nope. Watkins just didn't get it done as a starter and would eventually take a seat on the bench. The Eagles cut Watkins just before the 2013 season. He opted to leave the NFL in 2014 and became a firefighter. So that's good. Good for him. Pittsburgh Steelers, Jarvis Jones. It seems like no matter who they select in the first round, the Pittsburgh Steelers always find studs. For proof, look no further than recent picks David DeCastro, Ryan Shazier, and TJ Watt. However, 2013 first-round pick Jarvis Jones never lived up to the hype, even though he was regarded as one of the top defensive players in his draft class. The former Georgia linebacker just couldn't transition his skills over to the NFL. A wrist injury derailed the 2014 season, and franchise favorite James Harrison would eventually replace Jones as the starter. The Steelers decided not to re-sign Jones after the 2016 season, and he wound up signing with Arizona. San Francisco 49ers, Anthony Davis. No, not the star of the New Orleans Pelicans NBA team. The other Anthony Davis. This is a football video. You know, the guy who San Francisco picked with the 11th pick in 2010. Davis was a second-team All-American during his college days in Rutgers. The 49ers thought they had found a Pro Bowl caliber offensive tackle when they took him, but instead they they found themselves one of the biggest draft busts in franchise history. After 5 frustrating seasons, Davis stepped away from football in 2015 to take a break. He tried reworking himself back into the game and returned to the 49ers in 2016. But after struggling once again, Davis decided to retire, realizing it wasn't meant for him to be a star in the NFL after all. Seattle Seahawks Aaron Curry. Seahawks GM John Snyder has hit on a huge portion of his draft picks, finding late-round gems in guys like Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman. But the Seahawks are still regretting their decision to take linebacker Aaron Curry with the 4th overall pick in 2009. The Seahawks gave Curry an overly generous $60 million contract before he even played an NFL game as well. Curry never blossomed under head coach Pete Carroll, and the Seahawks benched him in favor of KJ Wright during the 2011 season. The latter morphed into a top-tier playmaker on the Seattle defense. As for Curry, he was traded to Oakland in 2011 and out of the NFL after playing just 2 games in 2012. Tampa Bay Buccaneers Mark Barron. Man, this was like a huge disappointment. The Buccaneers selected Alabama linebacker Mark Barron with the 7th overall pick in 2012. He had all the markings to be a true franchise charger on defense. Many thought the Bucs had their new cornerstone player. However, Barron wasn't able to grow into much of a playmaker on defense. He had just 2 sacks over his 3 seasons in Tampa, and even defensive-minded Lovie Smith wasn't able to get much out of Barron. The Bucs traded Barron to the St. Louis Rams at the 2014 trade deadline, ridding themselves of the big-time draft mistake. Tennessee Titans Jake Locker. After moving on from both Kerry Collins and Vince Young, the Tennessee Titans needed a quarterback. So with the number 8 selection, they drafted Washington quarterback Jake Locker. He showed some promise in 2011 and 2012, then began to play like a real starting quarterback in 2013. Unfortunately, Locker suffered hip and foot injuries that year, and his promising 2013 season ended abruptly. Locker struggled in 2014 and was benched in favor of Zach Mettenberger. He then retired in the ensuing offseason, saying he didn't have the desire to keep playing. What hurts more is that the Titans missed out on Houston Texans star J.J. Watt, who went 3 picks after Locker. Oh, how the AFC South landscape could have been so very different. Washington Redskins Robert Griffin III. Alright, now this wasn't really his fault though. The Redskins surrendered a bundle of picks to the St. Louis Rams before the 2012 draft, in order to move up and select Baylor QB Robert Griffin with the number 2 selection. RG3 had a promising rookie year, leading the Redskins to a surprising NFC East Division title. He was named to the Pro Bowl and was named Offensive Rookie of the Year. But in typical Redskins fashion, the organization found a way to ruin his career. Griffin was forced to play on a bad knee in the postseason despite not being medically cleared. RG3 suffered a serious knee injury which eventually required surgery. He wasn't able to stay healthy after that, and he never regained his promising form after 2012. After losing the starting gig to Kirk Cousins in 2015, Griffin was demoted to backup and released in the 2016 offseason. The Redskins got 1 good year out of RG3, and if they handled his health better, he probably would have lived up to the hype as the 2nd overall pick in the 2012 NFL Draft. What do you think is the biggest NFL draft bust in the past 10 years? Join us in the comment section below. Make sure to follow myself and Total Pro Sports on social media. We post great content all the time. Hand motions. Go follow us. Go do it. Go check out our profiles, give it a look. If you like it, follow us. If you don't, follow us, because why not? If you like this video, give it a like. 1 click right down there. It takes 1 click. That's all you gotta do. If this is your first time around TPS, make sure to subscribe because we post videos every day. I'm not lying. Subscribe. Do it. Of course, thanks so much for watching. I'm Jason Biondo, and I'll see you next time.
My knee.